Thank you so much. So the last session for today is a mixed one. We have some of our participants online, and we have a few here physically. Professor Rotimi Solomon is joining us virtually. Professor Olayinka Ilesomi, Professor Samaila Modupeola Shreton, Professor Shreton, are you online? Media team? Okay, she's not. Maybe she'll join us as we go along. Then we have Professor Sheikh Abdulatif. Professor Sheikh Abdulatif, are you online? All right. Okay, then we have Dr. Olajide Adebola. Yes, and that's him there. Thank you so much. All right, so I'm going to let you do the honors.
Okay.
I'm moderating the panel. And that's showcasing innovation in cancer care.
Okay. So I'm going to come. I want to see what innovation's happening in Nigeria. I want to hear about some fantastic opportunities. We've seen a lot today, and I've been very impressed with the level of innovation already so far. Now, because this is our last session and we've got a mixture of people online, hopefully we're going to have some of them come up and we can see them. If someone can help me at the back, we've got other people online. I'm going to go to the speakers in the room first because I can, and I've got the microphone. So that's how it works. So I'm going to go to a gentleman on my right and talk a little bit about what you're up to and what's happening in the innovation space. And then try and keep it brief, but also just let people introduce yourself, but also your background, why you're here, and then what you're going to talk about in terms of innovation.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. I'm glad to be here, and I want to appreciate colleagues that are still staying back. I'm Olayinka Ilesomi. I work for Africa CDC. I'm the program lead for West Africa at the moment, and I'm also the research focal point. So my jurisdiction is not just Nigeria, but the other 14 countries as well. So we do a lot as regards research in Africa CDC. We have a directorate of research and innovation. And part of what we do in that directorate is to encourage research among the different countries. Apart from that, we also lead researchers with funding organizations. Recently, we did a research mapping for not just Nigeria, for all the 50 member states in West Africa. And part of what we try to do is to see who is doing what. Where are the researchers? What do they do? Where do they get their funding from? What are the gaps? What are the challenges? And we also noticed in a very brief and quick needs assessment that we did not long ago, we noticed that researchers in Ghana, they don't even know what's happening in Nigeria. So those in Sierra Leone, as close as Liberia is to them, they don't really know what's happening. So part of what we do is to ensure that we link researchers together, joint application for fundings from partners and donor agencies, and ensuring that researches that meet the need of the people are what we do with the little resources that are available. So those are some of the things that we do. Apart from that, we also strengthen the National Public Health Institute, and the Nigerian Center for Disease Control has actually benefited from several capacity building, not just researches as regards cancer, but non-communicable diseases in general, infectious diseases. We take its research as one, not just limited to cancer. So, but part of what we are interested in is innovation in researches. For instance, recently the Nigerian National Health Research Ethics Committee, I think they went online, and that is actually a thing of joy to us. The National Health Research Ethics Committee, when you want to apply for research ethics approval, you send by email, you do printing in the past, you follow up. Because recently Africa CDC conducted one mpox research in 9 countries, and 9 out of the countries, 3 out of the 9, they are in West Africa. So we noticed that in some of these countries, it took us almost 6 weeks, 5 weeks, even to get ethical approval. But that of Nigeria happened within just, I think, less than 2 weeks, about 10 days. So it was even surprising. So that's actually part of what I can see as innovation in the research ecosystem in Nigeria. So apart from that too, I believe with some recent developments, we trained some researchers to apply for some funding. And we were informed recently, the EDCTP, about 7 out of the 9 groups that were supported by Africa CDC, they were able to scale through the first stage of the application. So these are some of the things that I think it's worth talking about. So I think I will still add others as the session continues. No problem. Thank you. So shortly before you joined, so we were talking about the innovations that we've noticed in the research landscape in Nigeria recently. So I talk from the point of view of being a staff of Africa CDC, and our jurisdiction in West Africa is not just Nigeria. We have 14 other countries. So I mentioned briefly 2 important things that is worthy of note recently about the application for ethics approval. Though I'm not here to promote my organization, but no, I need to mention some of the things that we do. So being able to help researchers to apply for joint grants. These are grants that are, it's not just a small amount of money. It's something that could lead to a lot of other innovations and collaborations as well. So I think I will hang it on from there. And then.
Thank you very much, sir, for this recap. Ethical research, ethical approval for research is very crucial in cancer research, and we're happy that Africa CDC is really improving the climbs and augmenting research. I'm also one of your research students, so I will attest to that. So for Mr. Olajide Adebola, we want to hear from you.
Thank you very much for inviting me to be part of this panel section. Talking about innovation and the background of the work that I'm doing, just to stimulate conversations. And if there are researchers here, it's an opportunity to also engage in the opportunity out there based on your research organizations. I'm a technical project coordinator with the European Union delegation to Nigeria and West Africa. And I'm supporting the local production for medicines, vaccines, and health technology. The EU has this global gateway, which is a strategy of the EU to mobilize 300 billion euro by 2027. And out of that amount, 40 billion euro is a guarantee for companies, research institutions, public or private, who are interested also to be involved to support the production of vaccines, medicines, and health technology in their country, of which Nigeria is one of the potential beneficiaries for that. So what have we done to ensure that Nigerian can also benefit, and also the ECOWAS region can benefit? We decided in 2023 to work on a national plan for vaccine research development for local production. So we have a national plan that was approved last year, a 10-year strategic plan that shows how Nigeria, from research to development, can go back to start reproducing human vaccines, because we produce animal vaccines at the Institute in Jos form. But of all the vaccines that we consume, and concerning routine vaccines, for about 400 million doses annually, according to UNICEF, all of those doses are imported. So it has its own impact on the national economy, and therefore, to spur this growth, we've been working with stakeholders, PMG-MAN. The technical lead for this is the National Institute for Pharmaceutical Research and Development, NIPRID, and we're also supporting NIMA as well as NAFDAC. And we're happy that NAFDAC is maturity level 3. In Ghana too, also they're at maturity level 3. So we're working to see how Nigeria can get to maturity level 4, and that allows support for vaccine production. But that's not to say, if you go to NAFDAC website, if that's your interest, there's a guide on if you are interested to start producing vaccines to guide you. Some of the works we're also doing is to help build capacity of local companies, working with UNICEF to shape demands and the market and supply. They have vast experience, and so they know the markets better than us. And so we want local indigenous companies, okay, within the region, not just about Nigeria, but Nigeria seems to be pioneering because of those initiatives and the plan that we have, such that local companies can also supply the UNICEF value chains, such that the 400 million doses for routine immunization I talked about are being sourced outside. So it's capital flight. And rather than also sometimes, let me talk about RUTF. 3 years ago, Nigeria now can produce sufficiently its own RUTF. That's the therapeutic field, right? So for treating malnutrition. And some 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, they were all imported. But these malnourished children are in Nigeria. And so some few people decided to say, look, we can do what is called local production of not retroactive now, therapeutic foods for malnutrition to treat malnourished children. And this is being shared in schools. So we have 100% self-sufficiency. So the lessons from that, RUTF, is what we are using for local vaccines, medicines, and health technology. Actually, to drop the cost of access, which is unlocking the healthcare value chain of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's agenda, we need to be self-sufficient in medicines, and that supports national health security, including drugs for cancer treatment and management. So there are also opportunities from the Global Gateway. Our project is called MAF Plus. It's manufacturing and access to vaccines plus medicines, health technology. So if you're interested, there's a current call for proposal that is on, and it's closing in September, but it has to be a consortium. And I think this is a good information for, thank you very much. Check EU Horizon for more details. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. You have really talked about very important areas of development for us in Nigeria, and we have different consortiums in research. And talking about consortium, we have Professor Solomon Rotimi. Prof, we saved you for the last. We have our reasons. We want you to top the cake. So, sir, you're online and you're on now.
Thank you very much, Dr. Anatu. Very happy to join you today, and it's been a very wonderful day. And also, I'll be, leveraging on the, already, previous speakers who have provided very critical information about great innovation, first in the area of NHREC, and also what, AU is doing. I'm Solomon Rotimi. I'm a professor of clinical biochemistry with research focused on cancer genomics. So a few of the things I'm going to talk about will be what we consider to be innovative within the Nigerian space in that area of my expertise. I think one of the information I'd like to pass across is that as far back as, so take us a little bit historically, that as far back as 1910, Nigerians have been publishing in area of cancer and linking it to genetics. One of very outstanding publications that many people may not be aware of was the publication by Dr. John Randu. People who probably are familiar with Lagos state politics may also be familiar with that name, who eventually moved on into politics and started a political party that was moving out of local politics. What John Randu did was that Dr. Randu documented clear evidence of genetic linkage of breast cancer within a family, male breast cancer within a family of the Jebu tribe. And he followed that family from around 1892 to around 1910. And he was able to show breast cancer in the father and breast cancer in the son. I thought that was a clear, evidence, showing that kind of, thing. And as we progress on to around 1950 to 1960, when Dr. Dennis Bucket, established the contribution of virus to development of bucket lymphoma. Of course, many people didn't know that a huge part of that work was also done in Nigeria, in the University of Ibadan, University College Hospital, and also ABU Zaria. Again, when you look at publication, you see clear evidence in that area. And to further, show the role that innovations in Nigeria played, there was a cell line that was developed from a patient in Ibadan, from B lymphoma, B lymphocyte, cell line derived from an 11-year-old boy with bucket lymphoma in Ibadan. And that cell line, if you go online now in ATCC website, where you have repository of cancer cell line, it's called Raji cell line with the code CCL-86. And a value of that cell line is sold for $555. I'm giving you something that you can easily go online and verify. Again, that's another kettle of fish, that's another kettle of side of conversation. Say, oh, what happened and all of that. And that's if this cell line is really still in the University of Ibadan. But definitely that cell line named after the person from which it was derived, and it was established by Dr. RJV Colvetaf, at the University College Ibadan, around 1963. So this is another example of great innovation, coming out of Nigerian space in the area of cancer. And then that dovetailed into a lot of outstanding work, done on contribution of EBV to cancer, and eventually, the establishment of, cancer registry, and then based on that cancer registry establishment in Ibadan, researchers within the cancer space in Nigeria were able to establish at that time lower level of breast cancer, colorectal cancer within our population compared to Caucasian, and also higher level of liver, cancer, then linked to aflatoxin, hepatitis virus, and what have you. So these are historical examples of outstanding breakthroughs, innovation, ground shifting, discoveries that were done in Nigeria. I'd like to go through this round because sometimes we tend not to know our history and to understand that we have made contribution to this space. Exactly. So I jump to. But Dr. Nacho, I don't know how many minutes do I have, so I just want to be sure
you have 2 minutes to wrap up, because what you've said has really opened another dimension to Mr. Wenger, talking about our tumor biology. We have to understand our tumor biology. When we manage cancers, we use data from different populations, racial populations that are not ours. Now we are having our own cell lines. And we have my Oga here, who can guide us, to get grants to develop medicines, chemotherapy drugs, and other drugs. So, sir, this is the last panel session for the ECHAlliance, and you have all opened up a Pandora box. We have professors in our midst who are into research, Professor Bojude, Professor Olasinde. You have all heard what Professor Solomon Rotimi has talked about. We have the potential to further research on our cell lines, and we have the EU support that we can leverage on to develop vaccines. We have Professor Elesonmi to guide us with ethical research approval, and I think we have added the ingredients to the soup. Or are we on the way to prepare the soup? All right. So thank you very much, sirs. You have 1 minute to recap. So Professor Solomon Rotimi, you can give us 1 minute recap all that you've said so that we go ahead to those ones around here physically. Thank you, Prof. Thank you very much. We're very proud of what you're doing, and we look forward to learning from you always. I'm one of your students, so I'm happy to be one of them, and we'll continue to learn from all of you. So, sir, 1 minute for you, sir, to recap.
Yeah, thank you. And let me also acknowledge, it's good to know that Professor Laside, Professor Bojude, they are there, the audience, and I pay my, I recognize your presence there, sir. So just to recap, clearly, we should understand our history that the breakthroughs have been made in the cancer space in Nigeria in the past, and more breakthroughs can still be made. And it's very exciting to see the kind of pitches that, folks made earlier on, the kind of innovations coming up, and it's an exciting time for us. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you once again. I would like to also add my voice to what you've just add, that we all also have roles to play when it comes to research. You may not start with doing something that is highfalutin, but you have something to contribute. I was speaking to someone sitting close to me. I think she has left. So she told me she started studying biochemistry. She's a 300 level student. So regardless of the level or the stage that you are, I just want to remind you that you have things to contribute. You may not be doing pathology genomics. No, it may just be something descriptive, and you are contributing meaningfully to science. And I would like to also encourage us. Africa CDC, we do a lot of trainings around the year in different parts of the continent. So you can just familiarize yourself with the Africa CDC website. I think in the next 1 or 2 months, there will be a mental health training in University of Ibadan. It will take place in Nigeria. So it's not specifically for cancer alone, but mental health care is also needed for patients that are being managed for cancer. So thank you so much. I'm glad to be here. Okay. Okay, okay, thank you. National Health Research Ethics Committee. The, maybe Nasarawa or your state, Kebbi. Now, that is actually, thank you so much for the question. It's a very important question. And that's actually how it should be. Once you have if your research is covering more than one state, it's better you get for the National Health Research Ethics Committee. However, different states, they have their own principles when it comes to research. Now, I studied in Ibadan. I was also a faculty at some point. I needed to do research in Oyo State. I got ethical approval from the State Ministry of Health. I got to a particular hospital just about few miles away from the Ministry of Health. It's still in the state capital, Adeoyo. And I was told that I need to pay for their own ethics review. So those are just policies that are localized within institutions. But usually when you have like Africa CDC is conducting research at the moment on Mpox in Nigeria. And we got our ethical approval from the National Ethics Committee. And we are collecting data from Rivers, Bayelsa, I think 3 other states. We were getting in Makurdi, I think in Plateau, about 5 states. So we didn't bother ourselves applying for ethics approval in the other states. But some states, if it were to be Oyo State, the hospital, except you are not doing hospital-based study, the hospital will ask you to, they will still ask you to submit your protocol that they want to go through it. It's at a minor fee anyways. They want to go through it. So I don't think that is also out of place because it's their own institution. Now, most times, such approval doesn't take time. Once you have the national ethics approval, it's just for them to be familiar with what you are working on. Yeah, thank you. Okay, maybe Professor Bojo wants to add something to that.
Yeah, thank you very much. So, I'm part of the Health Research Ethics Committee of Federal Teaching Hospital Gombe. And at a time, I was the DCMAC research. So we faced this kind of issues, or let me say experiences with researchers. And at a time, I called Professor Iliasu, who was the then, of the NHREC. And what he told me is truly, you cannot bypass, like Federal Ministry of Health in the state, their own ethical stuff. So when they request for it, submit, usually they will give you an express waiver or maybe a waiver and you just pay and they waive it for you. Some might just ignore, but some. And then I now asked him about, okay, like you got an approval from Oyo State or maybe from ECHUI review group or committee. So, and then you're now going to Osun State. Then they now ask you. So he told me that, look, there is some little politics there. The understanding is that they can decide to just allow you to do it or maybe give you an express approval. But the understanding is that one day you give an approval from Osun State and the person will refuse it in Ibadan. So if there is that understanding, once you see from any other state, you can just accept. At most, you can just ask them how far and ask who actually reviewed it. Is it okay? And then you let it go. But there's a lot of small politics about it. But if they insist, just give it to them. They do an express approval and just give you a waiver. Thank you.
Okay, Prof.
Thank you very much. Communication is very important. You see, international groups is still sad that today we depend on data from GlobalCan and what else. And it's so obvious. You are carrying out research in Nigeria. You are talking about, let's say, mpox, that, like you said. And you will be talking generally about the country when actually your research is limited to 2 centers. And let me give you a typical of cancer. We said we have National Cancer Registry. Are we speaking the truth? Look, if you carry out a research in National Hospital Abuja here, and you are talking of Nigeria, you have failed. And this is what is happening till date. And I laugh when I read some publications that we are very funny lots. Things differs. Languages differ, culture, tradition, even, look, you can't just stay in the corner of your enclave and you'll be talking about the country. And this is what is happening. Unfortunately, you see, when they are quoting, they'll not be talking of statistics of National Cancer Registry because they know it's not. So what are you doing? And this is applicable to all other African countries, except maybe Gambia, as smallish as it is. Gambia and maybe, to an extent, Uganda. But others, you just stay in your hospital and be quoting that this is what you carried out in the country. No. So, as African CDC, what are you doing to address this? Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Prof, for the question. Like in December 2024, we had a research prioritization framework workshop in Addis Ababa, and we invited researchers, ethics approver, or chairman of ethics board in almost all the member states. And part of the reason we called the meeting was to have like a form of unified ethics committee for the continent. Apart from that, we're also working on research prioritization. We have seen people collecting money from Canadian Association, doing the same study that they collected money from European Association and also from the NIH. So different organizations, whereas doing the same thing. So that we are trying to look at the research landscape. What are the people doing what? Who are the people doing what? So what we plan to do is to ensure that we have like a research hub. We asked the DEX officer, the National Research Committee, that we need a list of the researchers in Nigeria who have ever participated in any clinical trial. The list was never, it's not anywhere. They told us the institutions where people do such studies. We said, no, can we get a list? People have been applying for ethics approval. Can you give us a list of all these people? We need to pull them together, give them a training, let them know each other. People in University of Ibadan, it will be funny that they don't know what some researchers are doing in ABU and so on, and we call it the same country. So part of what we are doing is to unify that. Professor Isaac Adewale, one of the former ministers of it, is also helping in that, and several other. We have other people who are probably past ministers of health, researchers, and we are working on that. I'm sure that the strategic documents that we are working on will be available, I think, sometimes in the next 3-4 weeks. So what we are working on is that we want to have research hub. We know that all the institutions are not the same. There are some institutions like University of Lagos, ABU, and other places. We can't be comparing them to maybe smaller FMC somewhere where they are prioritization, they are not really prioritizing research. But how can we link up this like hub and spoke approaches? So these are all the things that we'll be discussing. And I'm sure that before the end of this year, you are going to see the outcome of a lot of discussions that have been going on at the moment. Thank you for that, sir.
I won't use 1 minute. Let's integrate, collaborate, partner, innovate together to improve the well-being of citizens of Africa and Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This has been a wonderful launch. We are very grateful for all your presence, the cancer survivors. We have our oncology nurses here, our nurses, our doctors, our innovators, startups, medical students, the cancer survivor groups. You have all been awesome today. You have made this day a memorable day.